What's up, everyone? It is your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How is everyone doing today? Moving a little slow today, but I mean, how is that not normal at this point? I even forgot to fucking tweet this shit out till I got up. So stupid me. It is what it is. Life goes on. What can you do? You forget and you move on. Anyways, we got a few things we're going to talk about today. Some things that are of interest to me personally. Well, pretty much all of it's something of interest, or else I wouldn't be talking about it. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about, we got a few quick things, and then we got two things that'll probably be a little longer. We got insurrections at the White House, pro-Palestinian march or protest, has went on at the White House over the weekend. So watch the video. Probably won't get too much into it because let's be honest, like they don't really end up nothing really happens. They just do stuff, and hey, guess what? They just get to go on with their lives. While we have a lot of January 6th people arrested, and there's even talks of trying and pulling charges against people who, although didn't enter the Capitol building itself, were just on the grounds. We're in the surrounding area on the grounds of the Capitol Hill building. So there's talks about charging those people with a crime. I don't know what crime in particular, but there talks about charging someone with them. Let's see. Let's see. Anyways, so we'll watch a short video. Here's some of my comments on that. Nothing too major. And then let's see. Oh, and then we got Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. He has his take on Trump's civil fraud, as I call it, the civil fraud trial. So this is a civil fraud trial that has just wrapped up. Hold on. Kevin O'Leary has decided he's going to speak up on it. He was interviewed, I guess, and let's see. Okay. All right. So yeah, there hasn't been any decision for the punishment yet. So, anyways, so that had wrapped up, and Kevin O'Leary, who I'll get into his background a little bit later. And then Trump also had a campaign ad. Basically, they posted on his True Social, giant troll to Joe Biden, which is hilarious. And then we got a former Gambino crime family underboss, Sammy the Bull, who talks about Trump, and we'll see what he has to say. We got creepy Joe Biden. He clearly makes a teenage girl uncomfortable, and you can kind of tell just by her body language. And then we're gonna look at a senile moment he's having. It's really just embarrassing. And then we got our two main stories are at the end. We'll be talking about the Department of Homeland Security filing a lawsuit against Texas to block them from taking over border operations in Eagle Pass. For all those that remember, Texas did that last week. So we'll talk about that real quick. And then finally, Democrats want to prevent the militia. They want to start banning armed citizen militias. And so we'll take a look at that real quick. So nothing too major, in my opinion. But yeah, so let's get into it. Before anything though, make sure you follow me at official W Ghost on X. Best way to follow me. Follow me, of course, on what you're watching now, whatever platform you're watching on, be it YouTube, Twitch, or Rumble. Just give me a follow. And then regardless of what platform you're on, please follow me at rumble.com/withghost. That is the best, Rumble's the bastion of free speech. So if you're able to follow me there, that is much appreciated. Let's see what else. rumble.com/withghost, best way to follow me. It's where most, like, if anything happens, that's where I'll be. And then twitch.tv /official with Ghost, and then YouTube, of course, with Ghost. But the main thing is follow me on X, just so you can get those links and get directly sent to my page and everything, since I'm very little well unknown. There's no one to, I'm not known, so it's not like they're going to be able, oh, okay, here's, Anyways, I'm not pushed in the algo yet. Let's see, I think that's all. And then, of course, I haven't been talking about this. I really need to. Make sure you check out Coffee Brand Coffee. The link is in the description. That's what I'm currently drinking. It's, in my opinion, the best coffee I've had. So check out Coffee Brand Coffee. There we go. All right, let's get into this. So here we are, giant protest. This protest, wasn't just standing out talking and chanting or anything. They actually had to relocate White House staff due to it, which I would consider fairly serious. And there have been no arrests whatsoever about this. So let's check out this protest.
How many have you turned in Israel? Huh? How many? How many have turned in Israel?
So they're pounding on the gate, chanting "fuck Joe Biden," etc. So that's what we're hearing here. Also, they ended up trying to jump over the gate, I believe, or they kept hitting the gate. Oh yeah. They damaged the fencing. So they broke fencing around the. Oh, it says it wasn't damaged. What the fuck? Oh, okay. So yeah, they damaged. They were damaging the fencing around Lafayette Park, and then the iron gate that surrounds the White House. They didn't damage that one, apparently. Okay, cool. They relocated staff. Okay, I guess you know what? Let's look at this article. It's kind of funny. So I was going to do this, but why not? All right. So videos showed pro-Palestinian protesters trying to break through temporary fencing set up near the White House on Saturday, but law enforcement officials said no arrests were made during the farces. Farces? I don't know. Fracas. During the fracas. Demonstrators at the March for Gaza rally in the district drew thousands of left-wing protesters to downtown Washington for a rally calling for an immediate ceasefire of the Israel-Hamas war. Were seen damaging the fencing around Lafayette Park while they chanted F Joe Biden. The temporary fencing is separate from the iron fence surrounding the White House grounds. which wasn't damaged in the protest. Here's a picture. Secret Service spokesperson Anthony Giulumi said around 9:15 p.m. Saturday that a portion of the anti-scale fencing that were erected for the event sustained temporary damage. Before repair teams were called in to patch it up. As a precaution, some members of the media and staff in proximity of Pennsylvania Avenue were temporarily relocated while the issue was being addressed. He said no arrests were made during the raucous episode. DC Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith said in a statement after the incident that violence, destructive behavior, and criminal activities are not tolerated. While a majority of today's demonstration remained peaceful, it was mostly peaceful, guys. Remember hearing that? There were instances of illegal and destructive behavior in Lafayette Park, including items being thrown at our officers. She continued, "We are supporting our partners at the United States Park Police as they investigate and hold those found responsible accountable for their actions." But there's been no arrests made. The massive crowd, rippling green, white, red, and black Palestinian flags, with many wielding signs reading "Abandon Biden" and chant that the president was complicit in genocide, gathering at Freedom Plaza just a few blocks from the rally. The rally, which was put on by the American Muslims for Palestine, featured numerous speakers throughout the day, including presidential candidate Jill Stein, who is running on the Green Party ticket. No one's heard of her, let's be honest. And Cornel West, independent candidate. No one's heard of him. Let me say personally to Biden and company, you're not just not enabling, you're not just facilitating, you're not just jolting and cooperating with the vicious crime of genocide. That makes you war criminals yourselves, Mr. West said. You ought to be shamed. This is just, politician chest buffing. So there you go. So yeah, no arrest has been made. Apparently, if you're for the right cause, you can go to the White House, damage even temporary fencing, cause such a ruckus that even staff are being evacuated, and you won't get arrested. There has been no arrests, although I'm pretty sure they arrested a lot of people during January 6th. See, here's the thing. This is why people don't believe the narrative of January 6th was an insurrection, because this is basically the same thing. The only difference is obviously they didn't enter any place, and then the biggest difference there is they weren't invited to enter the White House, while a lot of January 6ers were invited to enter the Capitol Hill building by the police. We've seen footage to Carlson, Steven Crowder. We've seen all this footage of them being welcomed in by police. They were like, "Hey, be peaceful, be peaceful." And then what happened? All right, cool. Bad decisions made. Any actual criminal act should be punished. But then you have something fairly similar, obviously not exactly, but fairly similar happen. But it's leftists who are doing it, and they don't get punished. This is why people don't believe this whole narrative of January 6th was an insurrection. There are some, of course, but the more evidence comes out, the more people are like, I don't agree anymore. So, but yeah, you call January 6th an insurrection. Wait, what's this? There was a riot. They're damaging fencing, throwing stuff at police. That's a giant riot, really. Let's be honest. The only difference between this and the Capitol Hill crap is they didn't enter the White House. But then the biggest thing there is they weren't invited to enter the White House. So this is why people we don't trust this crap. All right, moving on. So this is Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. Well, let's see. And he talked about, the civil fraud case. Who's Mr. O'Leary? Well, Mr. O'Leary is a Canadian businessman, also known as Mr. Wonderful. I'm not sure how he got that nickname, but he does. Let's see. He's a Canadian businessman, investor, journalist, TV personality. If you don't know him, or if you know him anywhere, odds are, odds are you'll recognize him from the show Shark Tank. That's what he's really known for, I would say. So that's why he let's see, that's why he's fairly someone that could speak about this. He's clearly a real estate developer too of some sort, but he's at the point is he has some knowledge to talk about this stuff. Okay, he's not some dude who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he's never owned any real estate or anything like that. So anyways, let's check out what he has to say about the civil fraud, the fraud trial, the fraud trial. All right, let's check this out.
You've been doing real estate for decades. Does this case strike you as odd?
Let's point this out. This is on CNN too.
Well, let's leave out Trump for a minute and let's leave out politics and just talk about what happens in real estate development anywhere. So if you're a developer and you've got a building on a block anywhere in America and it's worth, let's say, $500 million, and you want to build a building right beside it, you go to the bank and say, this building is worth $500 million. I'd like to borrow a construction finance loan against this asset, and I want you to tell me it's worth $500 million too. And the bank negotiates with you and says, well, no, we think it's worth $400 million, and you fight it out. You're always trying to show your assets in the brightest light with the sunshine you could possibly determine for them. You want them to be worth the very most because you're only going to get a 40 or 50% loan to value, as it's called. Then you borrow that money. In the case of a $500 million asset, maybe you get $250 million, and you build a new building with a construction finance loan. And so that's what this case is all about. And by the way, forget about Trump. Every single real estate developer everywhere on earth does this. They always talk about their asset being worth a lot, and the bank says no. And that's just the way it is. So in this case, when I'm trying to figure out, and I'm not pro or con, or I don't care about the politics, who lost money? Nobody. The bank got paid back the construction finance loan, and a new building was built. And if you're going to sue this case and win, you got to sue every real estate developer everywhere. This is all they do. This is what they do all day long, every day. So I don't think this thing will ever survive appeal, regardless of what the fine is. This doesn't even make sense. Now, look, I know Trump's got a lot of problems in other indictments and everything else, but this, if you're a real estate developer, you're watching this, you're saying, what is this? This is ridiculous.
So there you go. That's what Mr. Wonderful has to say. He agrees. This is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous thing we are doing. Why are we doing this? Everyone does this. Why is Trump the only one solely being focused to, be in trouble? Well, of course, Mr. O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful understands it's politics. It's about 100% politics. That's all this has ever really been about, is the politics of the issue. But yeah, there's nothing like, oh, we got to get justice for these people. There's none of that at all. In this case, we need to stop this fairly popular guy. And don't get me wrong, it's wildly popular. He is wildly popular. He's so popular, even with all his trials. There was just a poll just the other day that puts Trump at 70% in the Republican votes. Like the Republicans want Donald Trump. It's very clear. He's done no debates, none at all. Although I wish he did, because that would at least have been some pure entertainment. But again, I understand. He's like, why would I go to the debates? I'm winning. I don't need to garner any support. But he's been to 0 debates. He's just done his like various town halls and shit and stuff like that. And he's at 70% for the poll. Like, really? He's at 70 goddamn percent. Like, at this point, all the other Republicans should just drop out because there's really no point. Yeah. He's got various, suits where, states are trying to keep him off the ballot. That's not going to last very long. The Supreme Court is going to easily just deny all that, saying, no, you don't have the power to do this, states. That power lies solely with Congress, or, that's what's going to end up happening. Let's be honest. All right, let's go watch this troll. Trump trolled Biden because he's the king. So let's watch it.
At White House Senior Living, our residents feel right at home. Our vibrant facility offers delightful activities and outings, round-the-clock professional care, and exquisite house-made meals.
Well, I've been eating everything that's put in front of me. I've been eating all Italian foods, basically.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, chocolate chip ice cream.
White House Senior Living, where residents feel like presidents.
That's a great fucking campaign, man. That's a great one. All right. And it's also funny because one of the videos I have for Biden kind of like illustrates this perfectly. Should I? Yeah, it's a short video. You know what? We're gonna go out of order here because it just fits so perfectly with that ad. Let's check this out. So senior, the White House Senior Living Home. All right, now watch this.
Morgan Sherwin. This is Morgan Sherwin. And,
look at him.
Sam Cerruti. This is Morgan Sherwin. And,
got it. Blocked. He looks completely confused.
There are our team members here. They help us. They help us. Service and sales. Good to see you.
Like he's being blocked, treated like a fucking senile citizen. Stop him from walking. Like, come on. Like, dude, that was a beautiful campaign ad. And then just recently, there's this video, and he's being kind of treated like a fucking senile citizen. And it's ridiculous. It's hilarious, but ridiculous. All right. So going back. No. All right.
Actually try to.
Oh, sorry. This is a former Gambino crime boss, underboss, Sammy the Bull. And let's see what he has to say about Donald Trump.
Actually try to press up on Trump, but you can never get to him.
Yeah.
Because he had ex-FBI agents all around him.
All the time. And I tried a couple of times to press him and make arrangements where I could work with him and earn with him. I did that with other big contractors. I had the power of the unions. I could do all kinds of little things, but I couldn't get to him. He wouldn't bite. He just wouldn't bite. He didn't want to do anything like that. And there was layers of people in the middle. One of my guys said, we'll go up to the office. I said, we'll go up to the office. Everybody around him is an ex-FBI agent. We'll go up to the office, we'll get cuffed, and we'll go right to prison. So forget about Trump. He's a legitimate guy. He don't want to do it. Forget about Trump.
Yeah. Actually try to press up on Trump.
See, how is that not a ringing endorsement for the incorruptibility of Trump? He was this is clearly, when he was in New York doing his, developments and whatnot. The mafia was trying to bribe him. So, for whatever thing they need. And they're like, dude, he's not even worth it. He's so insulated. We got nothing. Like we can't do this guy. We can't. Let's just leave him be, go about our business. All right. And that was when he wasn't president of the goddamn United States. This was back when he was just some dude, some billionaire. And there was tons of people that were taking bribes and shit that were even, and even the mafia was like, let's not fuck with this guy. All right. We can't do it. Well, all the while, Biden here is having some giant issues with the possible corruptibility of himself and the money he is receiving from China. And all that stuff. So it really is like, another ringing endorsement for Trump and why Trump is the best option we have. All right. Now let's watch Biden creep the fuck out of some poor little teenager girl.
I do. I'm sorry.
See, look at that. She scoots away.
I do.
Look, she looks, and then she scoots away, and look at her face. Look how visibly uncomfortable she is. This poor girl. She's like scoots away, looks up, and like has that forced smile, like, "Oh, hi." And he starts creepily whispering in her ear, like, "How creepy! This is so creepy." Biden, stop being so creepy, or keep being creepy. Up to you. All right, there we go. All right, last two stories. All right, so as we all, I can take this out now. I don't need these. I'm not listening. Okay. Fuck, it's cold as hell. So cold. It's like 15 degrees. Sucks having to do this shit in my basement. Eventually, I'll have my own office with heating. All right, so if you remember, last week, the state of Texas had enough with the failures of the Biden government and has decided, you know what? Fuck you. You're not going to ensure our border or protect our state. We're going to do it for you. And they took over Eagle Pass, Shelby Park specifically. And was like, yeah, no one can come in here. All right, you guys can't come in this way. We're going to guard it, and we're going to force the border patrol out because they ain't doing shit. All right, so that's what happened. So now, Department of Homeland has filed a lawsuit to block the state of Texas from doing this. It was a Texas National Guard, FYI, to be more specific. So the Department of Homeland Security has issued an emergency overnight filing to the Supreme Court to block Texas from taking over border operations in Eagle Pass. Okay. So this is from the DOJ website, right? Well, not really, but it's www.justice.gov. And this is the lawsuit. Justice Department files lawsuit against Texas regarding unconstitutional SB 4 immigration law. The Justice Department today filed suit against the state of Texas to challenge Senate Bill 4, SB 4, under the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, Supremacy Clause, and Foreign Commerce Clause. The Constitution assigns the federal government the authority to regulate immigration and manage our international borders. Pursuant to this authority, Congress has established a comprehensive framework governing the entry of non-citizens into the United States and the removal of non-citizens from the country. Because SB 4 is preempted by federal law and violates the U.S. Constitution, the Justice Department seeks declaration that SB 4 is invalid and order preliminary and permanent enjoining the state from enforcing the law. SB 4 is unconstitutional, said Associate Attorney General Vanet Gupta. Under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution and longstanding Supreme Court precedent, states cannot adopt immigration laws that interfere with the framework enacted by Congress. The Justice Department will continue to fulfill its responsibility to uphold the Constitution and enforce federal law. I don't know if this makes any sense to me, but we'll continue. Then I'll have my thoughts. Texas, well, yeah, let me read this last one. Texas cannot disregard the U.S. Constitution and settle Supreme Court precedent, said Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Brian M. Bonton, head of the Justice Department Civil Division. We have brought this action to ensure that Texas adheres to the framework adopted by Congress and the Constitution for regulation of immigration. So I guess according to them, what they're saying is, hey, we have decided to let people illegally cross and do nothing about it. So Texas cannot prevent the insurrection, the invasion on their lands because the U.S. government says so. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they're not like I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I don't understand this word, but they're not, Texas isn't going and saying like they're picking and choosing who are U.S. citizens or anything like that, or they're not setting up a whole new border checkpoint or anything. They're just saying like, hey, this illegal crossing here where people are illegally entering the country and the federal government is just letting it happen. Yeah, we're going to just shut this down. All right. You can go to the border and allow them to go through there, but we're not going to let you illegally enter our state through here. That doesn't seem like it's violating any type of law or regulation to me. And I mean, yeah, I mean, is it in, like Congress has established a comprehensive framework governing the entry of non-citizens into the United States. So as Congress now declared that you don't need to use point of entries into the United States, you could just enter anywhere along the border. Is that what they're trying to say here? Because they're saying that, govern the entry of non-citizens in the United States and the removal of non-citizens from the country. Now, I'm unaware if Texas is sending the people that have been through back through. They may very well have, but I'm unaware of it. Anyways, let's continue. As outlined in the complaint, Texas law would create two new state crimes that attempt to regulate immigration, which charges ranging from misdemeanor to a felony. Additionally, SB 4 would give state judges the ability to order removal from the United States. The Supreme Court in Arizona v. United States has confirmed that decisions related to removal of non-citizens from the U.S. touch on foreign relations must be made with one voice. SB 4 impedes the federal government ability to enforce and remove provisions of federal law and interferes with its conduct of foreign relations. The suit was filed on behalf of the United States, including the Justice Department and Department of Homeland Security and Department of State. All right, so that part makes some sense to me, at least. Kind of. I say, Texas should work on just preventing them from entering in the first place and not deal with any of this other, bullshit, really. Let's be honest, it's all bullshit. But, yeah, but, sorry. But, it's, so, I mean, if their only issue, which it's not, but this United States' only issue was the fact that SB 4 grants, judges the ability to remove illegal immigrants from the states, then I could at least be like, all right, I could kind of get that at least. But that's really about it. If their argument was, hey, Texas doesn't have a right at all to prevent anyone from entering the border, period, then I don't know. And it's interesting. Hold on. Okay, never mind. All right. So this is from Immigration Americans Voice, Immigration 101. What is SB 4 Texas immigration law? Now you can tell this is a very leftist place. Most of the nation's harshest anti-immigration bill is cleared for implementation after federal appeals court this month lifted an injunction preventing law from being enacted while legal challenges proceed. The unanimous ruling by 3-panel judges of the U.S. Court of Appeals for Fifth Circuit almost reversed a federal judge's temporary block of SB 4 in August 2017. SB 4 has been described as "show me your papers." Well, okay, we'll see how accurate that is. That blocks safe cities. But it's a lot more than that. SB is comparable to Arizona's SB 1070 and Alabama's HB 56, two famously anti-immigrant and discrimination laws that were passed, enacted, and challenged by civil rights groups and the Obama Department of Justice, and for the most part struck down by federal courts. Like those other bills, SB wants to legalize racial profiling, discriminate against people of color, create a massive deportation pipeline, and make communities less safe. I mean, considering all the issues we're having with illegal immigrants and the crime that has followed, is it really does it really make communities less safe? I don't know. I don't know about that. All right. Anyways, so what does SB 4 Texas Show Me Your Papers law do? It allows police, including college campus police, to question immigration status of anyone they detain or arrest. Okay. This includes drivers and passengers who have been pulled over for traffic stops, such as speeding or having a broken taillight. Even victims and witnesses who talk to police when they haven't committed a crime are targets. All right. Well, I don't agree with that if this is accurate. This last part, I mean, the victims and witnesses, I don't agree with that. If they're contacting you due to a crime, like a crime that they committed, then I would say absolutely. It requires police chiefs and sheriffs to cooperate with federal immigration officials by honoring ICE detainer requests for deportation or face $25,000 or $25,000. Yeah, $25,000 fines per day, jail time, or removal from office. This means that local jails must hold undocumented immigrants who have been detained until ICE can pick them up if ICE has requested it. Oh, why is that a problem? They're illegal. And this is, people that are being jailed for some sort of crime, at least from what it seems to me. SB 4 promises to use taxpayer money to defend those who are sued from enacting the law. So, let's see. On hold is one clause that appeals said would be a First Amendment threat to punish local officials for adopting, enforcing, or endorsing policies that stand against SB 4. I don't think that would be First Amendment issue. Because you don't have you are protected by the First Amendment. Sorry. I don't know if that would be a First Amendment issues. It would be one thing if it was just an endorsing, but adopting and enforcing, I don't think that's a First Amendment issue. This provision would be made This provision would have made elected and appointed officials subject to fines, jail time, and possible removal from office. SB 4 does not apply to school districts, including school police. religious affiliated police, open enrollment charter schools, hospital districts, community centers, and mental health authorities. However, local police called to schools can inquire about a person's immigration status. I'd only agree with that if it's due to them coming in contact due to them committing a crime. Like if you arrest, like what I mean by this is if you arrest someone for a crime and you're charging them with a crime, and then you should be able to acquire their immigration status and then be able to deport them afterwards. That's what I think. In Houston, a student was placed in federal immigration detention center after being arrested by police at his school campus. Students decry the violation of trust by Houston independent school districts, and the actions also went against ICE's policies of avoiding enforcement actions in sensitive locations like schools, health centers, places of worship, and public demonstrations. San Antonio school districts have released a handbook detailing what students and families should expect during SB 4's implementation. School police and contract officers cannot ask about a parent's or student's immigration status except as permitted by federal law. A student's education record are also confidential and cannot be shared by police unless required by law. So this is why they strongly oppose about it. Apparently, okay. So there we go. That's what people feel with SB 4 is. That's silly. It's very silly. Again, I don't think you should just be able to stop someone and content, but they're doing a crime and they're being arrested for it. I don't even think if they're getting a ticket for it. I think if they're being arrested for it, then absolutely. A question of their legal immigration status should be a thing. All right. Moving on. Oh shit. Oh sweet. Well, before I move on, hold on. But yeah, when it comes to immigration, we're having a huge issue, and we need to correct that immediately. And I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on this law. I don't think you should be able, I think my opinion is if a cop can legally ask for your ID, like say you get a speeding, even if you get a speeding ticket, I think I'm changing my position a little bit. I think if a cop is able to, if they're contacting you and can legally ask you for your ID, I don't mean like, cops on power trips going, oh, let me see your ID because I said, I'm saying they could have legally and justifiably ask for your ID. They should be able to ask for your immigration status if they choose to. I don't think there's anything that can be wrong about that. Because, and again, like I'll say that, like if you're committing some sort of crime or anything like that, I don't think, because I don't really go talk to the police. I don't really interact. I don't think that's like, and I think that only should come into effect when it comes to the commission of a crime, even if it's as simple as speeding. But I don't think that is something that should come into effect if you're contacting because you're a victim or a witness to a crime. I think that's my position on the whole thing. It's interesting too that SB1. They seem to just focus on the whole show me a papers aspect of the law. Didn't really discuss any of the parts about implementing their own federal or their own immigration law and all that. But yeah, I think that's my position on it. I think if you're able to be legally asked your ID due to your commission or committing of a crime, your immigration status should be asked as well, even if it's as simple as speeding. I think if you're a victim or witness to a crime, then your immigration status should not be able to be asked. I think that's going to be my thought process on this for now. I think that's fairly reasonable. All right, let's move on. So, Democrats bring bill to prohibit armed citizen militias. Now, of course, this must have been in the works since that whole Summer of Love thing, right? Where we had Chad, Chop, Chaz, whatever it's fucking called in Seattle and various other states, right? That's what this is about, correct? Let's see if that's correct. According to lawmakers, legislation clarifies that these domestic extremist paramilitary operations are in no way protected by our Constitution. Really? Because, it does say militia in the Second Amendment. And who are the militia? The people. Democratic lawmakers are advancing legislation intended to prevent privately organized paramilitary militia group activities within the United States. Introduced by Senator Ed Markey, D. Massachusetts, and Representative Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland, on Thursday. The bill, dubbed the Preventing Private Military Activity Act, would prohibit privately organized groups from publicly patrolling, drilling, or engaging in harmful or deadly paramilitary techniques, interfering with or interrupting government proceedings, or interfering with the exercise of someone's constitutional rights, according to Mr. Markey. Their bills define a private paramilitary organization as any group of 3 or more people associating under a command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to functioning in public as a combat support, law enforcement, or security service unit. The bill states acting with or behalf of such a private military organization while armed with a firearm, explosive, incendiary device, or other dangerous weapons, and engaging in patrolling, training, interfering with government or constitutional rights, or assuming the function of law enforcement without official authorities. The bill makes exceptions for members of the National Guard and the other military reserve components, state guard forces, and members of other federal or state organized groups to train and apply paramilitary law enforcement security services. The bill also allows for organizations from groups formed solely to conduct military reenactments, bona fide veterans organizations with no intent to engage in the aforementioned prohibited activities, and students in government or state authorized education institutes that teach military science. All right, so here's why they put it. So, if you guys remember, there's a lot of places where they had neutral zones, or however you want to call it, the occupied zones, Chaz, Chop, Chad, whatever it's fucking called, where Black Lives Matter people sectioned off an entire section of a city and prevented law enforcement from entering. They policed their own. They did law enforcement. They were essentially a paramilitary group. Okay. And they were essentially a paramilitary group doing everything this bill says you should not be able to do. And not only that, they had higher death rates than anyone else than any other city. So is the bill in response to that? No, it's in response to this the functional the lies of the of January 6th. That's what this bill is for. So an unarmed group of people that were not armed at all is responsible for the creation of this bill. Again, an unarmed group of people who are invited into the Capitol building, don't forget that, were responsible for this bill being brought. Make that make sense? All right, make that make sense. So Mr. Markey and Mr. Rashkin introduced their legislation just days after the 3-year anniversary of the breach at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, a point they repeatedly referenced in a press release announcing the bill. Patrolling neighborhoods, implementing law enforcement, and storming the Capitol building, private paramilitary groups like the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, and the Proud Boys are using political violence to intimidate our people and threaten democratic government and rule of law. Yeah, like that Summer of Love people, right? Our legislation makes the obvious but essential clarification that these domestic extremist paramilitary operations are no way protected by our Constitution. Why not? Though rioters and demonstrators did not use firearms or other deadly weapons during the event at the Capitol on January 6th, many did use blunt objects and pepper spray in clashes with police that day. Some individuals have also been charged for having firearms and other deadly weapons on their person while on Capitol grounds that day. In trials against the members of the Oath Keepers and other defendants, prosecution made note of members of the group moving through the crowds in a practiced and organized fashion, frequently described as stack formations, as well as wearing tactical gear and using portable communication devices to stay in contact and coordinate their actions. Oh, apparently you can't wear what you want. You can't communicate how you want. 3 years ago, white supremacists affiliated with paramilitary organizations stormed the U.S. Capitol building, shattered windows, walls, and the families of 5 U.S. Capitol police officers. That's a lie. Oh, no, never mind. That may be correct. Said Mr. Markey. Well, I'm not sure actually what he means by that. So they stormed 5 families of 5 U.S. Capitol police officers? That doesn't make any sense. Said Mr. Markey. Private paramilitary actors such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers pose a serious threat to democracy and the rule of law. We must create new prohibitions on their unauthorized activities that interfere with the exercise of people's constitutional rights. The forces of bigotry and hatred and violent extremism must stop for the sake of our democracy. Prior to the events of January 6, 2021, members of the Proud Boys had organized at conservative and right-leaning gatherings and demonstrations and clashed with violent counter-demonstrators, often members of Antifa and extremist group, intended on disrupting those gatherings. Oh, hey, look, now we're going to listen to this. Let's see. Following the death of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis, police custody in 2020, many left-wing groups organized in support of the Black Lives Matter movement engaged in protests and riots throughout the summer of 2020. At demonstrations, members of these groups often clashed with police for weeks. Rioters also threw fireworks, incendiary devices, and rocks at federal officers guarding a federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon. It's funny how these senators didn't mention this stuff. They just mentioned the January 6th shit. During a political rally in support of President Donald Trump in Portland on August 29, 2020, Trump supporters were met with violent counter-protesters. Trump supporter Aaron Danielson was shot and killed while walking to a parking garage following the event. In an interview with Vice News while invading law enforcement, self-described Antifa activist Michael Reinhold described shooting Danielson while claiming he acted in self-defense. Reinhold was charged with murder, but was shot and killed during a confrontation with federal law enforcement officers attempting his arrest. Oh, look, I was right. Mr. Markey and Mr. Raskin made no mention of any left-leaning organization while announcing their bill on Thursday. Mr. Raskin told the Washington Times that the legislation was not written with a particular ideological viewpoint in mind. Really? Then why did you only mention the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and 3%ers, but you didn't mention Black Lives Matter and Antifa? Come on. Don't fucking lie, dude. It was clearly this idea was clearly for right-leaning people and not lefters. During the civil unrest in the summer of 2020, some armed groups organized to protect private property from looting and vandalism. Several armed individuals organized to prevent property destruction at a gas station and used car lot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, amid rioting and arson in the city of August of 2020. It was during that incident that an individual who had joined the armed organization group, then 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, shot and killed 2 people and wounded a third. Mr. Rittenhouse was charged with murder, but was acquitted after arguing he acted in self-defense after he had been attacked by several individuals who targeted private property and who chased him, struck him, and pointed a firearm at him. That was the guy who he wounded. Individuals who also engaged in nonviolent protests events while exercising the right to carry firearms in public under relevant state and local laws. Okay, that was a weird thing. NTT News reached out for comment from Mr. Markey and Mr. Rashkins with questions as whether their legislation would impact organization groups of individuals guarding private property, participating in neighborhood watch, or attending nonviolent protests while armed. They did not respond by press time. Yeah, no, they definitely would want that to be whatever. This week, U.S. Circuit Judge Florence Pan, an appointee of President Joe Biden, raised the hypothetical scenario of a president ordering the military to assassinate political rivals. NDT News asked Mr. Markey office whether groups that organize and trade for response to that scenario and other hypothetical scenarios involving tyrannical government action would be punished under his proposed legislation. So there we are. So yeah, this is hold on. Before I make my comments, there's one more thing. This is just a very quick one pager that kind of like demonstrates it. What the? As evidenced by the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. I'm gonna look at. There we go. All right. There we go. That's better. Old. Oops, hold on. There we go. All right. As evidenced by January 6, 2021 attacks on the U.S. Capitol, private military actors like the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers pose a serious threat to democracy and rule of law. Again, no mention of any leftist organizations. None at all. Interesting. Since that time, the threat posed by paramilitary groups has continued and evolved. Such groups have mobilized to imitate state and local officials, disrupting governmental proceedings, interfering with the exercise of First Amendment and voting rights, target marginalized communities, engage in unauthorized law enforcement functions. Where? I haven't heard about this at all. Where? Tell me where. As the 2024 election season begins in earnest, the risk and remains that private paramilitaries could once again mobilize at mass scales to defend their favorite candidate and act on false claims of election fraud. No federal law exists to directly address private paramilitary activities and protect those whose constitutional rights are threatened by anti-democratic intimidations. I think there are several laws that deal with that. Although all 50 states prohibit private paramilitary conduct via constitutional provisions, state statutory prohibitions, or both, these laws are often antiquated, unenforced, or ignored entirely. So we have laws. You just want bigger government to do the laws. Look, I was trying to enact federal laws. Why don't you encourage state laws to do this? Okay. Why don't you encourage, hey, state officials, start enforcing these laws? Why don't you do that instead? Trying to enact a giant federal law because you're big daddy government, you want to fuck us in the ass. Moreover, the threat posed by private paramilitary organizations is not merely a state or local issues, as these groups often travel across state lines, as they did on January 6th. Oh, well, then I guess that would mean it would be under the jurisdiction of the state that they're actually in and doing this stuff, wouldn't it? Legislation overview. What the? Ah. There we go. All right. Make sure. Okay. So this legislation builds on existing state anti-paramilitary laws to create a new prohibition on unauthorized private paramilitary activities with both civil and criminal enforcement mechanisms. The prohibitions does not bar mere association with paramilitary groups. Instead, it holds individuals liable if they engage in certain types of conduct while armed and while acting as a part of a private paramilitary group organizations. It's interesting how they call to January 6th that was not armed with firearms, which I guarantee that's what they mean in this thing by armed. But they don't point towards the autonomous zones, as they were called, in various states. They don't call on those, which would have been a better point to point out. Like those would have been a better one to be like, hey, this is what we're talking about. Then a couple of losers, let's quote unquote insurrection against the individuals, unarmed, essentially, against a fairly armed and superior, superior firepower of the police. It's dumb. And it weakens their argument, in my opinion, severely, as it clearly is against the right and not a left thing. Which narrowly defined a group that is organized in a military-style command structure for the purpose of engaging publicly in pseudo-military or law enforcement-style operations. Category of prohibition conduct addresses dangerous conduct engaged in by private paramilitaries. I think I've read all this. So let's see. Legislation creates different tiers of criminal penalties based on whether violations result in injury or property damage. Sounds like sounds like something you should be pointing out for the Black Lives Matter fuckers. Provide harsh penalties for repeat offenders. Allows for a probation sentence for first-time offenders. Importantly, it also creates civil remedies by authorizing the Department of Justice to seek injunction relief against paramilitary activities by creating a private right of action for individuals harmed by paramilitary activities to seek injunction relief and or damages. The legislation also contains clear exceptions for activities such as historic reenactments, state-sanctioned training, and veteran parades. And that's just the legal background. Congress has the authority to pass this legislation under the militia clause, necessary and proper clause, and commerce clause of the United States Constitution. This legislation is consistent with First and Second Amendment rights in upholding a state anti-militia law that barred bodies of men from associating as a military company or organization or parading or drilling with arms in any city or town. Supreme Court held in 1886 reaffirmed in 2008 that the Second Amendment does not prevent the prohibition of private military organization. Similarly, the court held the law did not infringe on First Amendment rights to peacefully assemble. The legislation applies regardless of ideology of private paramilitary or the target of their unlawful activity. Really? Then why didn't you mention like any of the leftist ones? That would have been a far better anyways, that would have been a far better what's the word I'm looking for? It would have been a far better example. There we go. Than January 6th. They only pointed to January 6th, but it would in a far would have been a far better example for the Black Lives Matter to point out Black Lives Matter than January 6th. Far better. That would give a better idea to people what they're basically describing here. But they didn't because all they care about is when the right does stuff. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was fairly interesting. A little more well-researched than I normally do. I'm trying to get better at that and trying to bring better quality show. I hope you all have a good day. And make sure you follow me on X at officialwghost. Check out my Rumble channel, rumble.com/withghost. And then obviously there's Twitch, twitch.tv officialwithghost. YouTube is, youtube.com/withghost. I think that's how you could find me, possibly. Make sure you check out my coffee brand coffee. It's my affiliate group, Delicious Coffee. Check it out. My links, my referral link and coupon code are in the description. And then also gaming. Check out my gaming channel, rumble.com/gamingwithghost. I hope you all have a good day. Peace out, and make sure you guys stay safe out there and try and stay warm. It's fucking cold as hell where I'm at. Hope you all have a good day. Peace out, and